All right, hello everybody. Hopefully you can hear us. This is Adam Mentor from Autodesk. We're really excited to tell you guys about the Autodesk Building Performance Analysis Certificate Program. We've got really good attendance on the line here. There's over 100 of you guys. I'm assuming that folks can see my screen and can hear me. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about who we are. We're going to talk about why education for building performance analysis is important. We're going to talk to you about the Building Performance Analysis Certificate Program and what content is covered in that. We're going to tell you how the course works, and then we're going to tell you what the next steps are if you'd like to take the course. And we'll have plenty of time for questions. So because there are a lot of you guys, we'll try to keep up with questions. But yeah, the reason why you guys are on mute is because otherwise it would just be a huge pile of feedback and no one would be able to hear anything besides screeching noises. So that's why you guys are on mute. But we can see things that you type into the question window. So we'll be addressing things as they come up on the call as appropriate, and also we'll have some time at the end. All right, so let's get on with it. Let's start with who we are. Okay, so my name is Adam Mentor. I work at Autodesk here in San Francisco. My job is to create educational programs that relate to sustainable design. My background is in mechanical engineering. I've really enjoyed learning a lot about building science in the process of building this program, and it's something that I wasn't exposed to when I was a student. And so I'm excited to be able to present this stuff to you.
And I'm Stephanie Egger. I'm another part of the BPAC team here at Autodesk. My background's in civil engineering, and I also have a new master's degree from the University of Southern California's Building Science program.
And also in the room here we have with us Toshi Woodenberg, who has been our intern over the summer. He's from the University of Oregon. All right. My slide is trying to advance here. Here we go. Okay. So the Autodesk Building Performance Analysis Certificate Program is a free online course that teaches building science fundamentals using Autodesk Building Performance Analysis tools. We've built it so that to allow you to acquire new job skills, to learn new tools, to improve your designs. Hopefully you'll apply this knowledge to your projects, and hopefully it's going to be a great supplement to coursework that some of you may already be doing. So why? Why do we create this course? Our goal is to make it accessible to learn the skills required to drive an industry-wide transition to performance-based sustainable design. We see a lot of room for improvement in how building performance analysis is done. It's often from a lack of basic understanding of building science. And we want to improve the quality of the analysis and therefore the value of Autodesk tools to you. So it's not the tools you've got, it's how you use them. Autodesk has worked really hard to try to make building performance analysis easier. And there's a danger in that when it becomes so easy that you can just press buttons and start to see results, it's easy to start getting results without knowing either what the inputs are that led to that result or understanding what to do with the output of that result to make a better design decision. So we see a lot of people sort of just pressing buttons and looking at colors without really knowing what to do. For example, with like a false color overlay like what you just saw. And what we're looking for is equipping people to be able to use analysis data to support design decisions in a more rigorous way. And what we find is that architecture students often don't learn enough building science and analysis in their programs. Many engineering students don't learn about buildings at all. That was the case with me in my mechanical engineering course. And professionals are being asked to use new tools and processes. And we're hearing from both educators as well as people in industry that it's a core competency to be able to predict and assess building performance, that the that there's a shortage of people that actually know how to do this work in a real way. People are having difficulty finding employees with adequate green skills. This is as phrased with a fall 2012 survey from the NIA. And part of the opportunity here is that students actually want to learn this stuff, and sometimes they don't have classes in it. So we've built this program to allow anybody that wants to learn building performance analysis to be able to study this stuff on their own and learn it in your own time. And I think here it's worth mentioning that some of you may be on this call because your instructor suggested that you join, and this is going to be a required part of your course or an extra credit part of a course. Or some of you may just want to learn this stuff on your own. And this course is built for both scenarios. So we're going to talk now about the content that's covered in the course. So there's quite a lot. And it's designed to enable a holistic analysis and like a full workflow that includes building performance analysis. So the topics are listed here. There's an introduction to building performance analysis, climate and weather analysis, energy literacy and building loads, sun and shadow studies, solar radiation analysis, whole building energy analysis, wind and airflow analysis, and daylighting. Some of the modules are not going to be released immediately when we release the course tomorrow. Those are the modules here that have the dates next to them. So these are the release dates of those modules, and you'll get an update. If you sign up for the course, you'll get an update when those things are released. The software that's covered in the course is Autodesk Revit, Autodesk Visari, and Autodesk Green Building Studio. And it's largely based on content that is on the Autodesk Sustainability Workshop website, which is a site that this team maintains. So let me just give you a quick tour of that. So this is basically built to be a knowledge base for the concepts, tools, and examples related to sustainable design. So there's two halves of the site, building design and product design. This is obviously related to building design. And within that, there's concepts. These things are software agnostic. So things that are sort of always true about good building design, things like building envelope fundamentals, energy fundamentals, heat energy flows, what are the fundamentals of light, how do you measure it? And then that is supplemented by software tutorials. So whole building energy analysis, how do you do climate analysis in BIM? And then there's examples as well that sort of serve to enrich and provide an example of what good looks like, in a sense. All right, so that is the Sustainability Workshop website. And the kinds of pages that you'll see there look, something like, let's just click on heat energy flows in buildings, for example. This is the source material from where some of the material from the course will come. So you'll recognize this formatting and this style when we show you the course. Get back to the PowerPoint here. All right, so some of you may be less familiar with Autodesk software, so I'm going to give a quick introduction to that now. So Autodesk originally was really known for AutoCAD. This course does not cover AutoCAD. It covers building information modeling, and Autodesk's prime tool for building information modeling is called Revit. The intent with building information modeling is that you create a 3D model that's a representation of your building, and then you can use that in lots and lots of different ways. You can use it to visualize the design, to analyze, to document, to build it. This course focuses on analysis and design and how those things can be used sort of together, how analysis can inform design. Revit and Visari are sort of the main tools that are covered in the course. Visari essentially is a simplified version of Revit. It only includes conceptual masses, so that's what you see here. Big blocky buildings. You're not seeing like exact windows and exact doors and it's more for like form and orientation and things like that. But you can do a lot of interesting analysis on top of these forms, and making performance-related design decisions early in the process is often really valuable. So that's why basically Vasari has been hived off from Revit, and it's got the conceptual massing plus some additional analysis capabilities that we'll talk a little bit more about later. But you see some examples of it here with wind and airflow analysis around a building and solar radiation analysis on the faces of a building. And both Revit and Vasari have whole building energy analysis capabilities within them. So that's some of the charts you see here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that right now. So Green Building Studio is Autodesk's platform for whole building energy analysis. It's based on the DO2 simulation engine. And it's what powers the analysis in both Revit and Vasari. So if you do energy analysis in either of those tools, it's using Green Building Studio. Here's a little flow chart to give you a sense for it. So with Revit, you can do detailed building models, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. You can do conceptual masses. And all of this, like Green Building, GBXML is a file format that passes it to Green Building Studio, and it uses DO2 as a simulation engine. So that often people are really confused with how do our tools relate to each other. This is sort of how they relate to each other. Revit and Vasari are alternate ways of getting a three-dimensional model into Green Building Studio where you can do a whole building energy analysis. There's some new energy analysis features in Revit that we're really excited about. I'm going to give you guys a quick demo of that right now. I'll talk over this video a little bit. So in the past, it was always harder to do energy analysis on really detailed models. So this is an example of a detailed Revit model that's got curtain walls and windows and shading devices, and maybe very detailed. And it was that would have been a model that an architect would have made, not thinking about energy analysis. Now you can basically click a button, and it already happened in the video. This button here, building element mode within Revit, and it generates the energy model in a much better way than it ever has in the past. So you can trust the geometry that's coming out and creating what we call an energy analytical model. And you can see here that there's actually a bunch of different runs that you press simulate once, and all of a sudden there's 40 runs that are going. And what's happening is it's varying design parameters, like how high performance are the windows, what's the insulation like, what's the like how much infiltration is happening, what's the building orientation, and then let me just back up 1 second, and then it's putting all of that on one chart for you, so you know what the most important parameters are to optimize, and what how sensitive your building is to these different parameters. In the past, getting this kind of insight would have required a lot of trial and error, and now it's much easier. So that's an example of one of the things that's covered in this course. Alrighty. So whole building energy analysis is a great way of keeping score of how well your design is doing from an energy perspective. There's also a lot of other capabilities in the software, which we call sort of sustainable design studies, which are taking a particular aspect that might influence building performance, like solar radiation on a building or airflow, and then studying that in more detail. And when you do that in combination with whole building energy analysis, it's much more powerful. So we cover sort of how these things relate to each other and how they, one type of analysis can inform the other kind. So we're basically looking to help you understand a fuller workflow of how building performance analysis can be integrated with BIM into your design process. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more now about how this course works. It's, as I mentioned before, it's a self-paced, free online course. You're able to track your progress on quizzes and in your progress through the content on one platform. We've piloted this course with 700 students so far over the past year and 20 educators. And with this release of it, we're making a lot of improvements that we think are going to really improve your experience. So let me tell you a little bit more about what some of those are. One is we've structured the course with a clearer outline, and we've broken the course up into smaller chunks. So if you have 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, you can make steady progress on the course without having to do large time-consuming quizzes. As part of that, we've created a separate little introduction to the software part of those outlines. So as you can see here, basically the way it works is you get an introduction to a topic, you learn some of the fundamentals, then you learn the software. Having understood some of these fundamentals, you then understand why the software is doing some of what it's doing. And then the next parts of the quiz relate to have software exercises, and you start to apply what you've learned. We do this, and Stephanie's going to show this to you in the tour here in a second, but we do this through these playlists where we're basically curating the best content that Autodesk has on how to use the tools and presenting it to you in an ordered manner so you can get started quickly with the tools as part of the module. We've also tried to integrate case studies and examples more than we have in the pilot rounds of this program. So it's always great to sort of see these principles in action and see example buildings. So we've tried to do that, and we've tried to also base software exercises on those examples. So now I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, and she is going to give you a tour of the learning management system.
All right, great. So like Adam said earlier, some of you are probably participating on this call because you're in a course with a professor who's doing this, or some of you are just participating on your own. Either way, your screens will look the same and you'll kind of work the same. Tomorrow when we release the website for you, this is what it'll look like, and you can create your account right here. I'm going to log in right now into an existing student account to kind of show you guys what it will look like. So this is what it'll look like when you log in. And the only difference between taking the course independently and taking the course as a student in a class is right here where it says Autodesk Building Performance Analysis Certificate. You'll have your professor's name right before that. If when you log in you don't see your professor's name, don't start the course. You're in the wrong course. You can email us at bpack@autodesk.com for help, and we can make sure you get into your professor's course. This is really important because your professor will want to track your progress on your scores and quizzes. So really simple, we see the BPAC course up here, and then we see all the lesson modules down here that Adam kind of just went over. On the left-hand side, we see your progress. Obviously, to earn the certificate, you have to complete all the lessons and pass all the quizzes. And so this little bar over here is just kind of showing you your progress. I've completed the solar radiation section, and I'm maybe 18% of the way through the introduction. Also, Adam mentioned, you can go through these in any order you want. You don't have to start at the introduction. If you're doing this course on your own and this is kind of a new topic for you, we suggest going through the order that we give because it kind of builds upon each other and it'll kind of help you understand the big picture. But however, feel free to start wherever you want. So let's look at energy literacy in building roads. This is a really essential lesson to understand for building performance analysis. So when we click on it, we can kind of drop down here on the navigation and see what's included in every topic. These little books, that's either a video, content, something that's from the sustainability workshop, and these little notepad looking things, these are quizzes. So you can kind of see where the quizzes are. So let's just start at the beginning. I've already made some progress in this lesson, but you can always go back. So this is like the first page. Here's the syllabus that Adam showed you earlier. You can click on it to enlarge it. And you'll really, you'll get to see specifically what you're working on in this lesson. So we can go back and click down to the next one. Again, your navigation's over here, so you can feel free to drop down. You can do the lessons in whichever order you want, and you can also skip around in here. So, maybe I'm ready to go to looking at the thermal mass page. So this page is directly from the sustainability workshop. One of the things we've built into the course is all the resource material you're seeing here is available on Sustainability Workshop, or it's available through our product help documentation. So even after you've completed the course, you still have access to all these great resources. So now let's look at what a quiz looks like. Let's look at the building loads quiz. Or actually, yes, let's look at this one. So you'll see this one has 10 questions. Most of the quizzes have 5 questions, and these are just kind of little lightning quizzes to make sure that you're understanding all the concepts that we previously talked about in this section. You're going to need a 70% to pass all the quizzes and be able to move on and earn their certificate. And you have an unlimited amount of tries for the quiz, and the system will save your best score. So if you go and pass it with an 80%, you can retake it, and if you earn the 90%, then the 90% will be saved. So as you can see, the questions are kind of a mix. Some are based on images, which you, again, when you see this finger, you can click to enlarge. Some of them are select multiple. Some of them are drop-down matching. And so we incorporate, fundamental questions, questions about interpreting graphs and charts. And when you're done, you just press Submit Test. It's warning me that I didn't answer actually a lot of the questions in this quiz, but for this purpose, we'll just say OK. Not surprisingly, I didn't pass this quiz because I just kind of clicked around. But the feedback we're getting is, it tells us what's correct. And, if we're incorrect, let's scroll down to one that we got wrong. It's incorrect here, but we know there's a link right here that will lead us to where we can find the right answer. So this link here will just direct us back to one of these pages that will help guide you to find the right answer. So again, if I'm unhappy with this test, and obviously I failed, so I can't earn my certificate, you can just simply press Redo Test up here. And you can start fresh and take the quiz again. So that's pretty much working with the quizzes and the content. One more thing I want to show you guys is kind of what our software, how we're integrating software into this. So all this stuff has been fundamentals. Now we're going to look at some kind of how we're integrating the Autodesk software into this. So in each lesson, we have a software intro. And we're specifying which software we're using in this lesson, why we're using it, and what we're going to get out of it. We're also including practice download data sets. This is a data set you can download and just kind of practice with it, play around, try some different analysis things that we're going to guide you through in the next few pages. This playlist is the next part, and this is really the bulk of the content. A lot of it is pulled from our Wiki help documentation, and a lot of it's also videos that have been created. So you can see here in this little playlist icon, the text, here's some text, here's step-by-step instructions on how to do something. Here's a video with instructions on how to do some energy analysis. And there's also some best practice tips that are sprinkled throughout for, if you really want to deeper dive, if you're having troubles with your model, you can go through this. So what we suggest is on the previous page, we suggest you download the data set, and then you can kind of work through this playlist and play along with the data set we gave you. So now let's also look at a software exercise. So this is what the software exercises will look like. Again, here's the model for us to download it. For each of the software exercises, we give you the data set. You're not required to do any modeling in this. We give you a list of kind of specified changes you need to make to the model. We're going to ask you questions about the results you got, and we're going to ask you to interpret those results. That next step is really what BPAC is about, getting past the pretty colors and all the charts, and what do these results mean. Another important thing, Adam and I are constantly working to improve this program. If you're working through, let's say you go through this whole lesson and you think, wow, it'd be really great if they just added this. At the end of each lesson, we have an optional feedback form where you can just kind of fill out the survey, give us your thoughts. It's optional. You don't have to give us feedback for each lesson, but if you have suggestions or found something particularly challenging, feel free to give us feedback this way. There's also a final feedback form at the very end of the course that's mandatory. And through that final feedback, you are going to ask you kind of questions overall about the course. And you'll also have the opportunity to join the student experts in that survey, as well as being added online to our student roster. So I'm going to turn things back over to Adam now, who's going to finish telling you about BPAC and kind of what your next steps are if you want to participate in this program.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Alrighty. There we go. All right, so I saw some questions come in as Stephanie was talking about how does this relate to the BIM workshop, for example, and how much modeling is required. As Stephanie said, this course is around analysis and design, and is not going to teach you the fundamentals of Revit modeling. That said, there is a playlist about the fundamentals of modeling in Revit and Vasari. So we basically tried to make it as accessible as possible. So if you have no modeling experience, no experience in the software tools at all, you can pass the course. If you have a lot of experience, you'll get started even quicker. I also saw a few questions come in about how does this relate to LEED. Some of you may have LEED GA or LEED AP even. This course is not specific to LEED, but it is designed to be synergistic with it in the sense that it covers sort of the building design strategies and fundamentals that's important to sustainable design no matter what. It's like, you know, physics-based understanding of how heat flows is going to help you design a more energy efficient building, which is going to give you LEED points. Right now, we don't have a predefined number of LEED continuing education units that you get as part of this course, but in the past, students have had really good luck submitting. If that's something that is important to you, you can submit those hours through the GBCI and definitely get LEED credit for it, but it's not LEED specific credit. All right, so I also saw some questions about time investment. So it takes about 25 hours to do everything. That's based on the student feedback that we've gotten in the past. Again, that depends on experience. If you have a lot of experience with either these topics around building science or with using the tools, you can do it faster. If you're new to it, it's probably going to take you longer. The good news is that support is available. We have a sort of a helpline that is manned by Stephanie and I, and we'll make sure to get your questions answered. There's also some complementary programs that go along with the BPA certificate program. We have academic research relationships that we're setting up with some different institutions. And these middle two bullets here are, I think, some of the more important ones for you as students. We have an analysis awards program where any project that you do, where you do building performance analysis using Autodesk tools as part of the workflow, you can submit that to us. And we will take a look, and we have different rounds of judging. You know, basically 3 or 4 times a year, we give some excellence and analysis awards, and the winners are featured on the sustainability workshop and become part of that database of examples, because it's really important, you know, if you're looking to do something new or to see examples of people doing this work well. And a really special opportunity is this design competition. We've partnered with the AIAF and with Architecture 2030 to create a design competition called the Transformation 2030 Design Challenge. It's for students only. Completing the BPA certificate course is a prerequisite for entering the competition. And it also uses some of the new educational resources that Architecture 2030 has created called the 2030 Palette, which is another great resource. And actually, if you sign up for the BPA certificate course, you get early access to those resources. Right now, that 2030 palette website is still in beta mode, but you'll get immediate access to it if you sign up for the course. The design competition is, we work with the Majora Carter Group, which is in New York City, and they do a lot of work in the South Bronx of New York. It's a urban infill site that is the former site of a juvenile detention center, and it's in a food desert there in the South Bronx, but it's ironically right next to one of the largest food distribution hubs in the country. So the design program is to create a fresh food market in that space. So there's a lot more information about the competition here at this website. We're going to be releasing more specifics of the building program pretty soon. All right, so let's talk about next steps. So if you're interested in doing this, what happens? So basically, if you're on this call, we'll send you an email tomorrow with the exact instructions and links. And you're the first people who can sign up for the actual course. So the reason why it hasn't been possible to sign up and get into that system that Stephanie showed you earlier is that it wasn't ready. It will be ready tomorrow. And then from that point on, you can sign up whenever you want. And it will be rolling admissions. Go ahead and skip to this. So there's no expiration date for the course, but your account will be terminated if you're inactive for 3 months. And as I mentioned before, 3 of the modules will be released after the launch. So the basic process for registering and starting the course is, 1, you need an access key. And so that's either going to come from your professor or from the Sustainability Workshop website. So if you're an independent student, if you're doing this on your own, there'll be a key that's just posted to the Sustainability Workshop website, and that's the key that you use. Right now, there's a limit of 500 independent students just for this first week, so that we can sort of make sure that the system doesn't crash. But we'll be expanding it based on demand. So there should be no significant delays in getting into the course. Once you have your access key, you can create an account and enter your key. And instructions for all of that is here on the Sustainability Workshop website. If you go to the Engage tab and go under Building BPA Certificate, this is where the key will be, and then the link to access the course will be right here. And there's more instructions for how to get started using the learning management system here in the student's guide. All right, back to the PowerPoint. Let's see what it is here. Okay, so yeah, so last words. We've been piloting this program for the past year, and we've really enjoyed doing that. And in the pilot, we had some great relationships with some students and some educators that have helped us improve the course. We plan to keep up that spirit of continuous improvement and openness. And so this is an invitation to basically be in touch and help us improve. The sort of the most efficient way to help us improve things with the course is through the surveys that Stephanie told you about earlier. So there's a question about where to download the software. And this is all explained in the course. Like when you sign up for the course, there's a page that's like, here's how you download the software. But if you're a student, Autodesk makes all of this, most of its software available to you for free. And so if you go to this website, students.autodesk.com, click on free software, here's where you'll be able to download the software. So basically you go down here, you get Revit, and you get Green Building Studio from here, and then Autodesk Vasari is actually from a separate website here. And all of that's explained in the course once you start. Okay, so I think we're at the end of what we've prepared for you, and we've got plenty of time for questions. So, so what questions are there?
Yeah, so we've been getting a lot of great questions throughout the whole presentation, so I'll just kind of field some of the most common ones. So professionals, should they be part of this course? What's kind of going on for professionals? Is this a good option for them?
The course was designed with students in mind, but it can be relevant and valuable to professionals too. We are going to be creating some professional-specific courses that follow the same format here, or a similar format, and that are also free. We plan to release those later this year, before the end of the year. And the difference in the student course versus the professional course is that the professional courses will be shorter and more scoped and more topic specific. So instead of a 25-hour-long thing, it'll be a 3 or 4 hour long chunk that you can more easily do sort of in an evening or over the course of a couple of evenings. And we'll make sure to get those pre-approved for CEU credits through GBCI, so you can use it for lead continuing education units. And there'll also be some slightly deeper dive sections for professionals. That said, this course, if you have access to the software at your job, is a great option for you, and you can sign up for it.
So, burning question everyone wants to know the answer to. What's going on with Ecotech? Why isn't it included in the course? What's happening?
Okay, so this is always a tricky question for us to answer because there's limitations on what I can and can't say based on legal requirements and marketing requirements. But what I will say is that if you've been following the development of the software, Ecotech hasn't had a release in several years, while the development of tools based on Revit and Basari have been much more active. So we really like Ecotech as a teaching tool, for sure. Versus our other software, it puts building science much more front and center, so it's great to learn some of these principles using Ecotech. That said, in terms of industry demand, we foresee people skills with the analysis tools in Revit being more of a demand in industry going forward. So that's why we wanted to sort of preference the Revit-based tools over the Ecotech tools. Ecotech was included in the course in the pilot, and one of the reasons why we decided to take it out is because it's an extra piece of software for people to learn. And the modeling conventions and sort of the UI of it is very different than what Revit and Basari have. So it's its own beast, and it becomes more difficult often for students to get up to speed with it and actually use it in their projects. So yeah, I mean, there's more that we can say about Ecotech. And if you have specific questions about it, ask those, and I'll try to answer them.
So we have some professionals on the phone, and they're wondering, should they register as educators or as students? What's the difference between registering as an educator and a student?
So if you register as an educator, the difference is basically as an educator, you are acting as an educator in this course. So you are able to give this course to your students. So if I'm a teacher at a college, or in a professional equivalent would be maybe the BIM manager or somebody that's in charge of training in the organization, we can set you up with a special instance of the course. So, we give you the ability to track the 20 people in your office or whatever it is that would be taking this course. So if you're just a lone professional wanting to learn this stuff on your own, you should sign up as an independent student.
Okay, so we have some more software questions. This is kind of higher scale outside of BPAC. What's the difference between Green Building Studio and some other tools such as Energy Plus and Design Builder?
Okay. So first of all, let me point you guys to a great resource. The Autodesk BPA team has a really active blog that sort of keeps you up to date with the latest of what that team is working on. So check out this is the URL for you here, autodesk.typepad.com/BPA. So that'll give you sort of almost a real-time feed of things that team is working on. So Green Building Studio uses DO2 as the whole building energy simulation engine. That's the same simulation engine that eQuest uses, but it's not Energy Plus. Energy Plus is the more recent engine that was developed, and it's a lot slower to run, and it requires a lot more inputs. So the reason why Green Building Studio at this point uses Go2 is because you can get much faster results that are going to give you the level of precision and accuracy that you need to make decisions. But it's not going to the precision of the model going into the tool is not going to be as refined as it would be in Design Builder or Energy Plus. And an additional benefit of using Go2, like what we saw before where there was 50 different runs being generated, that's possible because the Go2 engine is so much faster.
Good. So Revit 2014, do students have to use that latest version for this course?
Yes, they do, because that whole building energy analysis that I mentioned that I was showing you before, where you can take a detailed model and then create an energy analysis from it, is only in Revit 2014. But again, that software is downloadable for free for students and educators. Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, so there's a good question about, a lot of people here are from the universities. Can the universities invite Autodesk local resellers to support BPAC, and what can they ask the resellers about?
That is a good question. We don't have an explicit strategy with engaging the resellers on this course yet. If you have a relationship with a reseller, having them support you is, I would encourage you to do that. They might not know a lot about this course, but again, we've built this so that educators can help deliver this course. So if a reseller wants to effectively act as an educator in your context, we can get them set up. A lot of what we find is that resellers, they're really great at the modeling part, but they don't have the subject matter expertise around building performance analysis and building science. And so that's why we created this course a little bit outside of those channels, so that we can put those sort of subject matter experts from Autodesk more in direct touch with the users. Other questions?
Okay, so there were some more questions about kind of what's the certificate and what's being issued. So just to clarify, when you complete the course, you'll get a certificate download as a PDF with your name, the version of BPAC you completed, and the date. You'll also get a digital badge, which you can use in your signature as a BPAC graduate. You'll also have the opportunity to join our online student roster, which is a list of all the students are basically our BPAC alums. So that's what happens when you complete the course and what a certificate means.
Yeah. So the roster is just a place where it's sort of broadcast to the world that you've completed this course. We hope that it's the kind of thing that you can put on your resume and that will differentiate you in job interviews. We may do something like create a closed LinkedIn group for people that have passed the BPA certificate, but we haven't done that yet. So, I mean, things like that we're open to suggestions for. So how, as a BPAC, someone who's taken the course, how can we make it the most valuable for you?
All right, so questions about prerequisites. Do people need to know Revit? Do they need to have modeling experience? Do they need to do anything before they sign up for this course?
So as I mentioned before, we've designed it to be really accessible. So modeling experience is good, but not required. I'll just give you guys show you guys very quickly. So I'm in the course here, and I've never used Revit before. I've never used it, sorry. When I'm in the introduction course, there's a modeling fundamentals page. So here, if you've never done conceptual modeling, this playlist will teach you the basics. So how do you do extrude, revolve, sweep, etc. That'll get you up to speed with how to use the SARI. If you've never used Revit before, there's this playlist that will help you learn the modeling fundamentals. So if you if you never used these tools before, it's worthwhile to pause at this particular place and get comfortable with how they work.
So another good question is, we mentioned that there was a 500 limit on the independent sign-up. What happens if someone goes and there's no more registration keys left?
Basically, check back in a week and it will be open again. The way that we have the way that that platform works that we showed you is that we have a certain number of users that we're allowed to use. We plan to extend that right along with demand. But because it's a brand new system for us, we need to be careful about slamming the system too early with so many users. So that's why we've put the 500 cap on it, but it will be, as I said, a matter of a week or so at the latest that would be extended. So if you're on this call, you don't have to worry about that because we're going to send you an email tomorrow and you'll be among the first people that will be able to actually have the information required to register.
Okay, so will the certificate expire and what's the process? Like, will it expire or will it last forever? How does that kind of work? Will they need to renew a certificate?
So we've built this to be very flexible, and the reason why that's important is that the software tools evolve very quickly, or at least more quickly than education can often adapt. We plan to keep this certificate up to date with the latest software, so as we update the course, we'll have different versions of the course. So what we're launching with now is version 1.0, and if you sign up for version 1.0, you can do version 1.0, get your certificate. It never expires, but it will be clear when version 2.0 comes out and what's different about version 1.0 and version 2.0. So if you want to update your skills to the latest, you can either take version 2.0 when it comes out, or I don't want to promise anything too much, but like one idea that we had is sort of creating refresher courses for people that have gotten the certificate but want to see some of the new tools. There can be like a little sort of like upgrade from version 1.0 to 2.0. That's not built yet, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
So we've had this question several times, is this certificate globally recognized? This is a certificate, which is different than a certification. The reason we're doing this is to help people learn. It's about learning, and it's not about testing. So this is different than a Revit certification, which is this certificate should be recognized by anyone who values building performance analysis and building science. It's not tied to any specific country. And it's not tied to any specific rating systems like we talked about with LEED. We've tried to make the course globally relevant, but there are not different versions of the course for different countries, for example. Okay, a good question, kind of what's the relevance of Vasari in terms of professional practice in the US and Europe?
That's a good question. I think there's an evolving answer to that question. Vasari is a tool that came out of Autodesk Labs, and the reason why it was in Labs is that it was, we wanted to have a more direct connection with users as the product team was developing that, and have more rapid iteration cycles. When you're tied to a product like Revit, at least in the past, it's harder to iterate quickly. So they pulled that out and developed it as a separate project, and it's still in that separate project phase, and that's why it's freely available. So it's as relevant to professionals as the conceptual modeling abilities within Revit are. We see professionals using Vasari, but they don't use it to create their final models. They're using Revit for that. They're using it for some often what we see is people using Vasari for things like really early design studies that might go into a proposal for a building, for example.
Great. So this is one of my favorite questions. As a student who's in an architecture school, how can they integrate the BPAC into their career? How is BPAC going to benefit them and help them in the long run? Why should they do it?
These topics are really important. Like we had a call with educators earlier today. Someone, I think from Pakistan, said, how do I make my students care about this? We have new laws coming out that are going to require, a different level of energy efficiency than we've ever had to do before. And I think in some ways he answered his own question because the regulatory environment is starting to move towards energy efficiency. There's a executive mandate by the White House, if you're in the United States, that any government building needs to be net zero energy by 2030. And basically, the industry is not prepared to do that. And this course is meant to start to give you the skills to be able to be a designer and be part of that transformation in that process of creating high-performance buildings where the decisions are made based on performance analysis and not based on sort of rules of thumb or checklists.
So I want to touch on something again. We mentioned that your login will expire after 3 months of inactivity. So this means if you sign up and don't log in for 3 months, your account will be deactivated and you'll lose any progress. So if you kind of know right now you can't do anything for the next 3 months, I would suggest holding off and registering when you know you have the time. You don't want to go and start something and then just kind of 4 months later be kicked off.
And there'll be reminder emails, like if you haven't logged in 2.5 months, you'll get a reminder. And another question that came up earlier was, is this course going to always be free? And that's our plan.
And one thing, in case you joined us late or you missed something, this call is being recorded and so is the webinar, so you'll be able to download this and view this on our site in case you missed anything or want to go back and check.
Any other questions?
Was on-site renewable energy taken into account for this BPAC course?
On-site renewable energy. A back-of-the-envelope calculation for on-site renewable energy potential is part of every analysis done with Green Building Studio. So if you look at the results that you get from any analysis in Revit or Vasari, you'll see basically expected energy use offset by on-site renewable energy potential. So in that sense, it is. In another sense, it doesn't dive deep into PV technology or small-scale wind technology.
Will there be future webinars and lectures like this that we'll be doing throughout the course?
Probably, but they're not scheduled yet. There is one scheduled for October 7th for new educators. But yeah, these are not that hard for us to put on. So if there's a strong demand for it, we'll post it. And the way where you'll be able to see what's coming up is always here at the front of the Sustainability Workshop website. There's a events feed down here. Actually, you know what? There is one scheduled, but it's through USGBC students, and it's on October 7th. And we'll get information about that up here when registration is available for it. But as Stephanie said, we're going to, by the end of the day, this recording will be posted on the website.
Okay, so does this course have a focus on passive design? Would you say that, Adam, is true?
I would say that's true, yeah. It does have a focus on passive design. And part of the reason for that is because it's targeted to students and because the HVAC configuration options within our software, it helps you understand differences between active systems in a broader way and not in a very specific configuration way. So it's basically about how to understand how passive strategies and active strategies can work together and how to understand that as a whole. So if you do a good job of reducing your building loads through passive strategies, you're in potentially a different ballgame with your active strategies, which is sort of the mantra of anyone working in sustainable design. Like Amory Lovins talks about this all the time in terms of reducing demand first, and then tunneling through the cost barrier is one of the words that he uses to describe something similar.
Are there books or extra resources you would recommend for this course, and where can people find them?
That's a good question. All throughout the website, there are, when you're on any of these pages, see, lighting and daylighting design, let's just click on one randomly. You'll see links and references. So Sun, Wind, and Light, this is actually a great book. And so where there are great resources that relate to a topic that we cover, you'll find them here. We also do plan to make a consolidated page with some of the best resources that we've come across, but that's not live yet. And it's not required to pass the course. Everything that you need to know is part of the course and part of the website.
All right, so I think we have time for one last question. This one has kind of come up a lot about the validity of Revit and Vasari results.
Okay. So every time there's a lot of different ways of taking the answer to that question. From a pure numbers standpoint, the validity of the results are as good as the inputs of the simulation and the understanding of the designer, which is why we've built this course. Every time there's a new release of Green Building Studio, there's extensive validation done, and it's based, again, on the DO2 simulation engine, which is industry standard and used as part of eQuest. So if you are sending a valid model, your results will be valid to the extent that the DO2 simulation engine is valid. If you're doing other studies like solar radiation or airflow analysis, those are again, those are validated in their own way. The solar radiation module has been validated, and there's some improvements being done to it, and all of that validation work is posted on the Green Building Studio help website.
Which, wikihelp.autodesk.com, and then you can search Green Building Studio. And that's true. You can also find Revit help there as well.
Yeah, on the WikiHelp website.
wikihelp.autodesk.com. I know a lot of you have been asking where a lot of this documentation is, and that's where.
Yeah, and that help for Green Building Studio is also going through a bit of a revision. It's going to be substantially better in the near future. Another thing I'll say about validation is that the CFD tool that's part of this course it's not a full-fledged PhD level computational fluid dynamics engine. It's a lighter weight version that has gone through sort of lightweight validation, but it's not, it's a lot of these tools are meant to give you a directional sense of how to optimize your design and at a level of accuracy that is going to be valid for you to make a decision based on and sort of optimize for quicker decision making. More questions?
So one last point. I know you guys had a lot of questions, and unfortunately, we didn't get to get them all. We tried to do as best a job as we could in terms of responding individually or answering them over the phone. A lot of these questions can actually be answered on our website. Adam, maybe do you want to go to the BPAC homepage and show them where all the links are so they can find out more information?
Sure. So if you're on the Sustainability Workshop website, which is sustainabilityworkshop.autodesk.com, you go to Engage, BPA certificate. This is the sort of main hub for this program. And if you click here on these sublinks, the BPAC FAQ answers a lot of questions.
Yeah, so there's the FAQ, there's stuff about registration, and yeah, so there's a lot of information there. I think it'll help a lot of you with some of the questions you were having. And it's really kind of a condensed overview of what we went over in this call.
All right, so I don't think we have any time for any additional questions, but thanks so much for your attention and for the great questions. that you did ask. And if you have further questions, you can contact us at autodesk.com, which is linked through that website that I showed you. So,
yep, that has all our contact information in case you have any further questions that aren't answered on the site.
all right. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right, thank you.